Grandma, give me money.
A sudden phone call from my 4-year-old granddaughter.
My little sister isn't moving, so I want to take her to the hospital.
I couldn't believe my ears. With my granddaughter's tearful voice causing an odd sense of foreboding, I hurriedly made my way to her house. Upon arrival, I found a scene of chaos, garbage, food remnants, and a foul odor permeated the room. And there, lying face down and unresponsive, was my 2-year-old granddaughter. The horrifying sight left me trembling uncontrollably. I am Nancy Smith, 58 years old. After losing my husband early, I've been living alone in New York. My only son, Michael, is already independent and has 2 daughters with his wife, Samantha, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. For me, the greatest joy comes from my grandchildren. Their house is about a 30-minute drive from mine, but since I don't have a driver's license, taking the train takes more than twice that time. Despite this, I eagerly await their visits, as they always come to see me from their side. However, there's one thing that bothers me. It's always my son who brings the grandchildren over. It seems that Samantha isn't particularly fond of me. From the beginning of their marriage, she's found various excuses to avoid meeting me, and this has been a source of concern for me. Furthermore, despite being a stay-at-home mom, their house is often messy when I visit. Strangely enough, she always keeps herself well-groomed. Once, I gently suggested that she should clean up for the sake of my grandchildren, but her response was sharp.
Just because you're my husband's mother doesn't mean you can meddle in my home.
As a result, she seemed upset. Reluctantly, I discussed this with my son, and he said,
Samantha is cheerful, and being around her lifts my spirits. I don't mind the mess.
It appears that Michael takes care of the cleaning himself after work. Well, I suppose there's nothing more I can do. If my son is okay with it, I'll refrain from interfering further in their marital affairs. Amidst this, my son's job transfer to a different region meant he would be away from home for a while. Although the exact duration wasn't clear, I heard it might be around 4 years. Yes, it's going to be lonely, I thought. Initially, Michael had planned for the entire family to move together, and I had assumed the same. However, Samantha was vehemently against it.
Raising young children in an unfamiliar place makes me anxious. We'll stay here.
Eventually, my son respected her feelings and decided to take the job transfer alone. Samantha looked directly into my eyes and said,
From now on, I'll bring my children to visit your house.
Despite my disappointment about Michael's absence, I couldn't hide my inner joy at the thought of continuing to see my granddaughters as before. However, my modest happiness was short-lived. Despite Samantha's earlier words, she not only failed to visit after my son's departure but also stopped communicating altogether. Gathering my courage, I called her cell phone. Are you busy lately? I'd like to see my grandkids. If it's difficult for you to come, I can go there. Her response left me stunned.
It's hard to say, but they don't want to see you.
I felt as if a hammer had struck my head unexpectedly. What? Have I done something to upset them? I asked. Samantha replied.
They won't tell me the reason. Anyway, we won't be coming over for a while, so please don't visit either.
Even after the call ended, I remained in a daze. What did all those happy moments with my grandchildren mean? I kept questioning myself, wondering if I had made some terrible mistake that caused them to dislike me. Vivid memories flooded my mind. My older granddaughter, Sophia, always played the responsible older sister, looking after her younger sister, Emma. She'd gently hold Emma's hand and guide her. Emma, on the other hand, was more reserved, often trailing behind her older sister. In their presence, I often found myself smiling, cherishing these precious moments. I recalled a time when Sophia imitated grown-ups and wanted a planner. I bought one for her, and she eagerly asked me to write something in it. I simply penned down my name and phone number. Sophia beamed, clutching the planner, and said,
"Now I can call you anytime."
"But now, they don't want to see me anymore." Why? It was baffling. Unable to bear it any longer, I considered discussing this with my son. I picked up my smartphone, but then I hesitated. I didn't want to burden him further, especially since he was dealing with the challenges of his job transfer. Well, if I endure this, as long as my granddaughters are happy and thriving. So, I swallowed my tears and resolved to stay strong. As time swiftly passed, half a year went by without seeing my grandchildren. Then, one day, at 11 p.m., my mobile phone rang unexpectedly. The caller ID displayed my son's home landline number. Nervously, I answered the call.
"Grandma, can I have $4?
I immediately recognized the voice. It was my 4-year-old granddaughter, Sophia. But she had never called me before, especially not this late at night, and certainly not asking for money. What could be going on? "Are you Sophia? What happened? Can you tell me?"
"Emma isn't moving, and I want to take her to the hospital."
"What?" I was utterly bewildered. Sophia, still struggling with her words, sounded frantic.
"What should I do? Emma might die."
She continued. "Where's Mom?"
"Mom disappeared somewhere. Please help."
I reassured Sophia, promising to do something, and hung up. When I called Samantha's cell phone, it was off. Anxiety gnawed at me. What was happening? I couldn't just stand by. Trembling with fear, I hailed a taxi and rushed to my grandchildren's house.
"Grandma."
My 4-year-old granddaughter burst into tears upon seeing my face and clung to my legs. Her frail body looked emaciated, and her clothes were tattered. The room was strewn with remnants of clothing and something that had been eaten, and an unpleasant odor hung in the air. But most alarming was the absence of their mother. Something was seriously wrong. "What happened? And where's Emma?" I asked, holding Sophia tightly. She pointed toward the back of the room, her eyes streaming with tears. I followed her, trembling, into the adjacent room. There lay my 2-year-old granddaughter, face down, completely unresponsive. "Emma?" The shock hit me like an icy hand gripping my heart, and my knees nearly gave way as I crawled closer to the small child. With trembling hands, I called an ambulance. "Emma, please, open your eyes!" I clutched her cold little hand tightly as they rushed her away in the ambulance. Eventually, we arrived at the hospital. The doctor murmured uncertainty.
"We'll do our best."
I could only bow my head deeply, feeling powerless.
"Is Emma going to be okay?"
Absolutely. Grandma says so. It's a certainty. As we waited in the hospital corridor, Sophia, her tear-streaked eyes rubbing, managed a faint smile. Then she began to share, haltingly, what had happened in that house. As she poured out the whole story, I trembled with fear, looking at my tearful granddaughter. Oh, poor child. How could such a thing happen? At that moment, the door to the treatment room swung open. The doctor's solemn expression delivered news that filled my heart with anger and sorrow. And right then, I vowed revenge against the mastermind behind this chain of events. After deciding to take care of my 4-year-old granddaughter at home, I busied myself with preparations to bring retribution upon those who had caused my grandchildren's suffering. Meanwhile, Samantha remained unreachable by phone. Since I didn't want to cause a stir due to the absence of her children, I couldn't even inform her in advance. Reluctantly, I sent a message. By chance, I met the grandchildren playing in the yard and brought them over because one of them had a fever. Her reply came at 1 a.m.
Since you took them without permission, please keep them until they are completely recovered.
As I stared at that message, I let out a small sigh. A week later, I arrived unannounced at my son's house, accompanied only by 4-year-old Sophia. Samantha was taken aback.
What's going on? It's inconvenient for you to show up without notice. Did you bring my kids with you? Wait, where's Emma?
I looked her in the eye and said, I need to talk to you about something. Can we go inside? She retorted,
If you're going to do this, come back when both of them are fully recovered.
She had no intention of listening to my words and was about to slam the door shut, but I forcefully pushed it open. I left my granddaughter waiting in the garden and barged into the house. However, something felt different this time. The room was oddly tidy, except for the disheveled bed in the open bedroom. Samantha glared at me and snapped.
Stop staring! Get out of here! What do you want to talk about? You have no right to complain.
I retorted.
You who don't take care of their children shouldn't be saying such things.
Wait, what evidence do you have? It's not acceptable to say random things, even if we're relatives.
Samantha glared at me and clicked her tongue.
I learned it all from little Sophia. Apparently, you sometimes don't prepare food and stay away from home for days.
Samantha's face twitched momentarily as she continued to glare at me. On that fateful day when little Emma was carried into the hospital, the story I heard from Sophia was truly horrifying. Since my son had moved to the countryside, Samantha had neglected her parenting duties, leaving 4-year-old Sophia to care for 2-year-old Emma. Occasionally, an unfamiliar man would visit the house, and they were often chased away. The 2 young sisters were enduring the worst kind of life.
I've heard that you threatened your children that if they ever told Michael or anyone close about this, you'd withhold their meals. Can you honestly claim you did nothing?
Amidst this dire situation, the 2-year-old granddaughter grew weaker day by day until she could no longer move. Ignoring Emma completely, Samantha dressed flamboyantly and went out somewhere that day. Sophia thought.
Surely Grandma will do something.
She relied on the phone number I had once written in her personal notebook.
Despite being told that they didn't want to see me, I also know that was a lie.
They are still 4 and 2 years old. What children say can't be relied on.
Samantha looked up at the ceiling and let out a hearty laugh.
Emma is currently hospitalized. Her attending physician pointed out that her extreme weight loss is concerning.
Huh?
The hospital's perspective was that they hadn't been adequately fed by their parents for a long time. So, with a solemn expression, the doctor came over to me in the waiting room.
Samantha, you are cheating, aren't you? Look at this.
I confronted Samantha, thrusting several photos at her. In those pictures, she was getting cozy with a blonde muscular man who seemed to work for a dating club for women.
Who took these photos?
As she trembled, she picked up each piece of evidence. And then, my son Michael stepped forward.
It's me.
Indeed, the person who appeared in front of us was none other than my son, Michael. On the day I returned from the hospital, I immediately contacted my son, who was working away from home. Furious, he managed to take time off work and promptly returned home to confront the situation. In secret, we had been investigating whether Samantha was up to any mischief. My son, Michael, revealed,
I've been tailing you all this time. It was easy to take photos because you were openly hugging your lover in broad daylight.
Samantha stammered.
Wait, this can't be true. I had no idea you were back in New York.
I retorted.
You really underestimated us. Michael was confined to the countryside, and I don't have a driver's license. So did you think our mobility was limited?
But then my son delivered the final blow.
Unfortunately for you, we're fully aware of everything you've been up to.
At that moment, Samantha's bravado vanished, replaced by fear as she faced my usually gentle son's fierce determination. However, that's just the beginning. I still have plenty more to say.
The reason you didn't accompany Michael on his rural assignment was simply because you didn't want to be away from your lover.
I accused her. She stammered.
Well, you see.
And this time, the unusually tidy room? Clearly, you had the man over. Look at this. It tells the whole story.
The comforter had fallen to the floor, and the sheets were terribly disheveled. When I pointed to the trash can by the bedside, she averted her gaze. My son, Michael, chimed in.
That man has already confessed, so you might as well give up.
What? What do you mean?
She seemed taken aback. Apparently, just minutes before our unexpected arrival, she had been enjoying herself with her lover in her home. The man, caught off guard by our sudden appearance, had leaped out of the window stark naked, only to be apprehended by my son. And there he was, willingly exposing their affair.
I heard it from that guy. I married my husband just for his money. That's your favorite phrase, isn't it?
No, it's not like that. I love only you. I was lonely without you, Michael.
That kind of talk is unbelievable. We're getting a divorce. And I'll be seeking alimony, so brace yourself.
Please, not that. I have debts. I don't have a job, and if you abandon me, I'll have no way to repay them.
Samantha, who had apparently accumulated a substantial amount of debt to cater to her lover, was completely distraught. She clung to my son, regardless of appearances, desperately pleading.
Please, I promise to change. Even for the sake of my children, a mother is necessary.
Such a despicable person, attempting to use her children as leverage to prevent divorce. However, children are far from naive.
We don't need Mom because Grandma is here.
Sophia's voice echoed through the hallway as she secretly listened to the adults' conversation.
Wait, what are you saying? I love you and Emma dearly. Come over here.
But Sophia retorted.
No way. Emma and I both hate Mom.
As if to emphasize the point, my granddaughter turned her back on her mother, who had a forced smile and opened her arms wide, and ran back to the garden.
Since Sophia feels the same way, it's settled. Expect a call from the lawyer soon.
Samantha clenched her lower lip and turned toward me.
This is all the old hag's fault. You need to take responsibility.
Oh, your defiance is almost refreshing. But enjoy it while it lasts. You see, your neglect of the children has already been reported to the police by the hospital.
And what does that matter? Surely something like this can't be a crime?
Didn't you know? Neglecting childcare is a serious offense. Depending on the severity, it could result in a prison sentence of 3 months to 5 years.
What? Absolutely not. I won't go to jail.
She turned pale, clutching her head, and began to panic on her own.
Yeah, that guy? He seems to think of you as nothing more than a human ATM. Apparently, he's got a real girlfriend waiting for him.
That's a lie. Why did I devote myself to him?
He's planning to move abroad with the other woman. He might be in the skies soon.
As my son looked pointedly upward, Samantha's eyes welled up, and she sniffled.
And by the way, when I told your parents, they said we're cutting off our daughter. We don't want to see her face ever again, so tell her that.
Even though they're my own parents, how cruel.
Well, you're one to talk. Your actions have been far worse towards Sophia and Emma.
My raised voice made Samantha flinch, and eventually, she broke down in tears, her eyes reddening.
I'm so sorry. Please help me. I have no one else to turn to.
You neglected your young daughters, yet you expect forgiveness for yourself? That's audacity.
Samantha stuttered. Having no words to say, she finally collapsed in front of us. However, my son, who had been working hard away from home for the sake of the family, and the resilient 4-year-old Sophia, who endured her mother's mistreatment, weighed heavily on my mind. And even now, with my 2-year-old grandchild teetering on the edge of life, I couldn't bear it.
Never show your face in front of us again. And remember this, neither I nor my grandchildren will ever forgive you.
We, my son and I, escorted the sobbing Samantha out of the house. Subsequently, Michael and Samantha's divorce was finalized, and custody of my grandchildren went to my son. Michael demanded $20,000 in alimony from Samantha, along with a monthly child support of $400 for their 2 children. Samantha is currently undergoing police questioning due to neglecting childcare, and she appears worn out and pale. Even if the legal proceedings conclude, Samantha faces a challenging future with substantial debts and financial obligations. Additionally, my son sought $15,000 in alimony from Samantha's lover, who promptly paid up to avoid further trouble. Miraculously, Emma has recovered and was recently discharged from the hospital. My son's transfer to the New York headquarters led to all 3 of them moving into my home. Watching my adorable grandchildren grow every day, I feel incredibly happy.
How did you find this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time in the next video.
The baby seems to have something to tell you.
At the celebration for my son's 100th day since birth, my 8-year-old niece glanced at my husband and began to speak. Can you tell me what the baby is saying?
Yes.
With enthusiasm, my niece proceeded to say one astonishing thing after another. Amidst the commotion among relatives, my husband turned pale and trembled slightly. It's no wonder. He was caught off guard by a plan that only he should have known. As my anger surged, I clenched my fists tightly. My name is Ariana. I'm a 24-year-old stay-at-home mom. Owen, my husband who is 2 years older and works at a company, and I got married a year and a half ago and our son, Noah, was born. Despite the challenges of parenting, we live happily as a family of 3. Our neighbors, my sister and her husband, frequently visit our home. They've been a great support, helping with household chores and providing companionship since my pregnancy. During a conversation with my sister, I learned something astonishing. My 8-year-old niece, Claire, possesses a mysterious power. One day, when my sister was out driving with Claire said earnestly,
Taking this road will lead to an accident. It's better to go that way.
My sister, just to be safe, changed the route to the one Claire pointed to. The next day, news revealed a massive accident involving several cars on the very road they would have taken. My sister shuddered to think what might have happened if she hadn't believed Claire's words and stuck to the usual path. But that wasn't the only instance. Claire also predicted a break-in at our neighbor's house, which indeed occurred. Fortunately, the neighbor had been persuaded by my sister in advance and evacuated valuable belongings to their parents' home, avoiding any harm. However, I'm not a fan of the occult. Despite hearing my sister's stories, I remained skeptical about Claire's mysterious abilities. I even shared Claire's tales with Owen, but he took it lightly.
Wow, that's impressive.
Since my pregnancy, Owen's behavior had changed. He started coming home drunk in the early hours of the morning more frequently. I had hoped that becoming a father would transform Owen, but nothing changed after our son's birth. His words about parenting together were like a distant memory. Instead, I was left to handle everything related to childcare. To make matters worse, just when I managed to put Noah to sleep, Owen's drunken voice would announce, "I'm home." Noah would wake up, crying inconsolably. I'd hold Noah, trying to soothe him. "Hey, can you moderate your drinking? Noah keeps waking up. Could you come home a bit earlier?" Owen retorted,
I have work commitments too. Who do you think supports our life? Stop complaining.
Noah cried louder upon hearing Owen's angry outburst.
Enough. You're the mother. Shut Noah up.
Frustrated, I didn't argue further. Owen's drunken bravado made conversation impossible. I retreated to the bedroom, where my only option was to put Noah back to sleep. 2 weeks later, on Owen's day off, my sister and Claire came to meet Noah for the first time. Claire was completely smitten by Noah.
Wow, he's so tiny and adorable.
But after a while, Claire started glancing at Owen. "Claire, what's wrong?"
Hey, Ariana. It seems like the baby has something to say. It's a secret from Owen.
With those words, Claire leaned in and whispered something to me. I was so astonished that I couldn't find the right words. I stared at Owen, who looked utterly bewildered. "But babies can't talk yet."
He really is. That's what he's saying.
"But..."
He wants you to be careful with his dad because he doesn't want to be away from his mom.
I couldn't quite believe the unrealistic content of her message, but Claire's tear-filled eyes and serious expression made me curious. After my sister and Claire left, I asked Owen, "Is there something you're hiding from me?" Owen immediately denied it, speaking rapidly.
Why are you suddenly asking that?
"Just curious."
I'm not keeping any secrets, and there's nothing for you to worry about. Trust me.
"Okay, I understand." But despite his words, he had shifty eyes, clearly suspicious. And Owen, who never did it before, started changing Noah's diapers on his own. I felt increasingly uneasy. Could it be? Is Owen hiding something from me? Claire's mysterious words echoed in my mind, and I found myself growing more and more unsettled about Owen. The next day, after Owen left for work, my sister and Claire suddenly arrived at our house.
Sorry for dropping by unexpectedly. Claire insisted on coming to see you, Ariana.
My sister looked apologetic, but Claire's expression remained serious. Don't apologize. Claire, welcome. Please come inside. As I ushered Claire in, she gazed affectionately at Noah, who was sleeping in the baby crib. However, while I was preparing drinks in the kitchen, I noticed Claire heading toward Owen's study, where she stared intently at something. Claire, what's going on?
Ariana, there's something hidden here.
Huh? Upon closer inspection of where Claire pointed, the gap between books on Owen's bookshelf, I discovered his secret diary and some documents carefully concealed. I had no idea Owen kept a diary, but my curiosity got the better of me, and I peeked inside despite feeling guilty. To my shock, the diary contained detailed plans for something outrageous. I can't believe he was thinking of something like this. Fear gripped me, and at that moment, I finally became convinced that Claire's mysterious abilities, as my sister had mentioned, were real. When I showed the diary to my sister, she was surprised but gently held my hand.
It's okay. I'll protect you, Ariana.
She then suggested,
Since you're worried, how about having Claire visit with you every time Owen has a day off?
Of course. Thank you. Feeling reassured by my sister's support, tears welled up in my eyes. Claire looked up at me with concern. I'm sorry for doubting you all this time. Claire's words were true.
That's why I said it, didn't I? But it's a relief we found out before things got worse.
Yes, thanks to Claire. I appreciate it.
No problem. You're welcome.
While I smiled back at Claire's bashful expression, inside, my feelings toward Owen shifted from love to something darker. I won't let this end here. Maybe it's time for some revenge. With that thought, I decided to confront Owen dramatically during Noah's celebration, where both sets of parents would be present. After that, my sister and Claire visited our home every time Owen had a day off. However, although Owen initially behaved amiably, he gradually became more irritable. Eventually, even with my sister and Claire present, Owen started wanting to go outside alone with me.
Sometimes, I'd like us to have a date as a couple. Can you take care of Noah until I come back?
Owen, no. Noah cries nonstop when Mom isn't around.
But I thought Ariana might need a change of scenery occasionally. Even just getting some fresh air outside could be refreshing.
Well, there's no need to go out of your way. Why not step into the garden together? It's a beautiful day, and the fresh air will do you both good.
My sister was skilled at countering Owen's moods without upsetting him, leaving him unable to respond. From then on, I sensed that Owen was always on edge. Finally, Noah's celebration day arrived. To celebrate Noah, my parents, my sister's family, and our in-laws gathered at our home. I meticulously arranged the dishes I had prepared, and the party began.
Noah, look this way. Oh, you are so cute.
As Owen happily filmed a video, fully embracing his role as a doting parent, my father-in-law beamed.
Owen, you're turning into a fine father.
My mother-in-law nodded, her eyes welling up with tears. Noah was delighted, surrounded by everyone. After the party, we all had some drinks in a relaxed atmosphere. Amidst this, Claire sat silently, fixated on Noah without touching the food.
Here, Claire, your favorite orange juice.
My sister tried to distract Claire, but Claire didn't respond. I wondered if she sensed something. And then, at that moment,
Does Owen like money more than Ariana?
Claire's words directed at Owen silenced the previously lively room. Everyone stared at Claire, frozen in place.
Claire, why would you say that?
Because the baby told me.
My sister and I exchanged glances, but the others remained utterly bewildered.
Hey, Claire, Noah can't talk yet, you know? You shouldn't tell such lies.
While grinning, Owen next to me playfully patted Claire's head, but she forcefully pushed his hand away.
It's not a lie. The baby says, Dad is trying to push Mom off a high place to get money.
Dad, me? No way. I wouldn't do something like that, right?
Noah says, I love Mom, so stop, Dad.
Everyone stared in shock. Among them, Owen visibly paled, his lips trembling.
Enough! Stop making up ridiculous stories.
Owen suddenly lost his temper, slamming the table. Claire's face tensed, and Noah looked like he might cry. I wanted to keep things pleasant until after the meal, but that's impossible now. I fixed Owen with a cold stare. You were bribing a woman, inflating company expenses.
Huh? What are you talking about?
I thrust the diary I found on the bookshelf in front of Owen, who was now sweating profusely. It's written right here. Don't tell me you won't admit it.
It's about a subordinate at work. I'd never do something stupid like that.
His strained smile and feeble excuses were met with beads of sweat on his forehead.
And besides, invading someone's privacy by reading their diary is despicable.
You, heartless person, have no right to accuse me.
What? What do you mean?
Still pretending? You were planning something dreadful to cover up your misuse of company expenses before it got exposed. I opened the diary to the page detailing his scheme and held it up to Owen, who averted his gaze.
Humph. So what? That was just material for a novel. Besides, a mere diary won't prove anything.
Well, then. Can you say the same after seeing this? I pulled out a certain document. Recognize it? It's the life insurance policy you were hiding. You took out a $1 million policy on me. What exactly were you planning to do?
I
see. You intended to repay the embezzled company funds with the insurance payout after getting rid of me. Isn't this substantial evidence?
No,
In truth, on the day Claire first visited Noah, she secretly whispered everything to me.
Owen wants money, so he's planning to take you somewhere high and push you off.
From that moment, I couldn't trust Owen anymore. Our parents and in-laws stared in shock. Cornered, Owen couldn't argue back and suddenly began desperately apologizing.
Ariana, I'm sorry. Let me repay the embezzled company funds instead.
Why should I have to do that?
Don't say that. We're a married couple, right? If the company finds out, I'll lose my job. Then we won't be able to survive, Will we?
Owen, who had lightly regarded my life for his own sake. I regretted ever being with someone like him. I can't stay married to someone as terrifying as you. It's also bad for Noah. Let's get a divorce. I handed Owen a pre-filled divorce form, demanding $20,000 in alimony and $500 monthly child support.
No! Noah is still so young. Divorce and paying such a huge sum, it's not a joke.
Just stop complaining and sign the divorce papers already. Owen stomped his feet like a child, crying and protesting. His pitiful behavior made me nauseous. Suddenly, my father-in-law, who had remained silent until now, snapped.
Owen! Cut it out!
Perhaps he couldn't bear to witness Noah's father behaving so poorly. My father-in-law continued.
You have no right to refuse divorce and alimony.
Owen reluctantly signed the divorce papers. Afterward, my in-laws apologized to me repeatedly and dragged Owen out of the house. The next day, I submitted the divorce papers. Then, I contacted Owen's company and reported his misuse of company funds. Subsequently, Owen's wrongdoing came to light, and he was fired from the company. To pay alimony, child support, and compensation to the company, Owen had to sell our home and now works from morning till night, living on site. I considered reporting this to the police, but aside from what Owen had written in his diary, there was no other evidence. Instead, I chose to be grateful that Claire and Noah had prevented a disaster. Now, I'm back at my parents' house with Noah, enjoying peaceful days. My sister and Claire visit Noah almost every day.
Noah says he's happy to be with Mom all the time.
Hearing Claire's words, I smiled. As I watched Noah giggle, I vowed to continue showering him with love and protect him with all my might.
How did you like this story? If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to my channel. Until next time.